Meeting is huge, so you are part of history today. Thank you so much. Great job. I want to recognize our Historical Society board. If you're here and I say your name, stand up. Jody Cox, Ella Guapetta, Kenneth Proshek, Randy Cuban, Mark Stastny, Mark Moreau, Jenny Proshek. I don't know if Judy Colbreth is here. Pam Blaha's here. She's back over there at the table. Karen Blumstrom's not here, and Susan Armstrong is not here. If you would like to become a board member and help us, see me after the meeting. Housekeeping information. Restrooms are in that front foyer, so if you need to get up during the meeting and need to go, feel free to do so. You're not restricted. If you need restroom, go. Got tons of refreshments, coffee, lemonade, water in the chest over there. So if you need anything like that, it's over there. We have things for sale at the front table. We have Edith Faye Cole's history books. We're totally out of Jody Fox's books. They're gone. So if you bought one, you hold on to it. It's a treasure because there won't be any more, I don't think. Are we ordering? Haven't yet. Okay. We also have the Crosby Bicentennial cookbooks for sale over there and Bicentennial t-shirts. And there's a bucket full of the bicentennial buttons. We're trying to get rid of all of them. So if you didn't get a button during the bicentennial, grab you some. Thank you for signing in. It's very important that we sign in. We're a 503c organization. And we have to have 4 meetings a year. And we have to have a sign-in sheet to prove that we actually do meetings. So if they ever audit us, they're going to be overwhelmed, and I'm glad. All of our public meetings for everyone. You do not have to be paid dues to come to our meetings. Our organization runs off of our dues. Our mailing our cards, refreshments, various other costs come from the dues. We usually have about 100 people who pay dues, so that gives us $1,000 a year. We also accept any types of donations. You will get in the mail your tax receipt once you have paid anything. We appreciate all donations. Our museum will be opening in the near future, very near future, and we will advertise on Facebook Forum. That's about the only place in the newspaper for the Star Courier. But if you sign up and we have your address, you will get a personal card in the mail about all of our meetings. Before our program begins, I'm going to turn it over to somebody very, very special that's here today. Where is Laura? There she is. She has a special presentation for us.
I'm not special. The person I'm going to talk about is. My name is Laura Richard, Laura Wiggins Richard, and I am the Vice Regent of the Crosby chapter of the DAR called the Old 300 chapter. Our Regent Alicia is here. Oh, I'm sorry. Okay, I'll talk really loud even though there's a mic. Okay, so my name is Laura Richard, and I am the Vice Regent of the Old 300 chapter of the DAR here in Crosby. Our Regent Alicia Spears here, and some of our other members are here as well. But I asked to go first before we get started talking about all this important news, because we have a special award that is given by the DAR called Historic Preservation Medal. It's very prestigious. We had to get national DAR approval for this award, and I just want to tell you about it. It recognizes and honors a person who has done extraordinary volunteer work over a long period of time in establishing a historical district, preserving a local landmark, restoring, preserving objects of historical cultural significance, or establishing oral history projects at the local, state, or national level. Our chapter submitted a Crosby resident and a board member of your historical society for approval to the National Society of the DAR, and we are pleased to have heard the news that it was approved. To our great pleasure, we're thrilled and surprised. Our national nominee has also been recognized by the state of Texas DAR as the state winner of this prestigious award in historic preservation. This person is invited to attend our state conference in March, attend the dinner, sit at the head table, receive the award, and then we'll also come to our award ceremony here in Crosby too. But we're so happy today to share with you your board member, the winner of the national or the state DAR historical. Sorry, I'm so excited I forgot the name of it. Historic Preservation Medal, Jody Fox.
I just realized I didn't capitalize Crosby. I think you got a pointer over here. All right, next slide. We'll get this started. Brother Larry, you want to talk first?
Just on behalf of Crosby Brethren Church, we're delighted to have a crowd. I don't think we've ever packed out this many people in our activity center. This center has been built for, it's built primarily for youth and we've shared it with youth for the last 20 years, but it's also a place for some community events like the Historical Society to meet on their monthly, quarterly basis. And some other groups throughout the community have used our facilities. So on behalf of Crosby Brethren Church, we'd like to welcome you. This does not count as church. So tomorrow morning, or this evening, or tomorrow evening, I would invite you to find yourself, or take yourself to the Lord's house somewhere in this community and give praise, honor, and glory to our Lord for the wonderful community that we live in. How many of you were born here in Crosby? Raise your hand. Maybe I better have y'all stand up. How many of you that were born in Crosby stand up?
You were not, Jody. He's adopted.
I was born in Herman Hospital in Houston. I moved here at 6 months old.
Okay. All right. Okay. I didn't mean to cause a family feud here, but I did want to just point out that a lot of us got to Crosby as soon as we could, right? Yeah. All right. It's a great place to live. And once again, welcome, and let Jody show us what to do. Tell us what to do.
One more housekeeping from Mark Stasny about parking, so listen up.
I think you'll find today captivating because you're all captive right now in the parking lot. So those that are in the street, which was a prime spot, by the way, you have to leave. You have to leave first. So when you say time to go, those people, if you're kind enough to say goodbye, because the rest of us cannot get out. So anyway, hence the captivating presentation.
Thank you, Mark. Our program chairman today is Jody Fox. He has put this whole program together, and he just wants to get the correct information out to everybody. He has invited the superintendent of schools, Paula Patterson, to be here, Velma Ellison, and Stephen Schreiber from Crosby Mudd. Please remember this. We have brought this together as an information program. We want to get the correct information out there to you. We cannot fix it, okay? You will need to go to the powers that be if you have to gripe or complain or have suggestions or whatever. He just wants to get the correct information out to everybody. Does that make sense? We will have question and answers if everything goes fairly smoothly. And so at that, I'm turning it over to Jody. One more? Okay.
Hello, my name is James Blaha, and I've got...
It's not working. That one, my ball.
My name is James Blaha, and I've got a flag that I bought at the Centennial Parade, and I want to donate it back to the organization. Jody?
They can't hear us in the back. So can this?
James Blaha bought this for its centennial celebration, and he would like to donate it back to the Historical Society.
It flew over the Alamo, and I want this to go into the Historical Society.
Thank you. And we got an hour and 20 minutes worth, or 10 minutes worth of slides here, so let's get started. Next slide, please. So these are some milestones that occurred in the growth of Crosby. By year 1860, they built a railroad. It took 30 years for that to actually make a big, significant impact, and that's because of the Civil War. But I can get someplace else because that's irritating. Okay, so in 1890, we had a number of Swedes and Czechs arrive, and that's where a lot of the people who are here from Crosby, that's their descendants. In 1908, Crosby and Huffman were separated from the rest of Harris County by the San Jacinto River. At that time, we were only connected by a ferry. And so in 1908, they built the first bridge across the San Jacinto River. Single lane bridge that connected us to the rest. In 1930, they built Highway 90. Prior to that, the people going from Houston to Beaumont would have come down, actually, what is part of Highway 90, turned on 2100, took Kernahan, took a turn, went out Crosby Dayton Road and kept going, so all the traffic came through the town. When they built the Highway 90 that bypassed the town, it took nearly 40 years for Crosby to recover from that. Population-wise, the population was about 600 in 1925, I think it was. And so it didn't change much all the way until about the 1950s. And in 1954, they built Lake Houston. 20 years later, that made a small impact, but 20 years later, you had Lake Shadows, Indian Shores, and eventually Newport in 1974. Indian Shores and Lake Shadows didn't make a ton of difference or Happy Hideaway on the population of Crosby. It did change sort of the inbred nature of the Crosby, where everybody was kin to everybody. But outside of that, it just brought in some new blood. In 1974, Newport probably doubled the size of the town. It took a while, but it did eventually happen. And then in 1991, of course, we had the construction of the Crosby Freeway, and that's what we're seeing now. This is the ramifications of that. And so, next slide. And it's a picture in 2020. You can see the land prices, and they sort of mirror what happened in 1943 or 1920, let's say. It was $25 an acre. In 1930, they built the highway around it. You see, it didn't change a lot. I know it doubled, but in other times it tripled, like from 1950 to 58. That's the dam. That's Lake Houston. And you'll see here, I'm going in and out here. You'll see there in 1984, it's $5,000. And these are rough numbers. It depends on, where the property was located. Various things have an impact on it. In 2018, just 5 years ago, we were 30,000 acre. I'm assuming right now we're about 75,000 acre. Some property is selling for 80. Bellman has a much better idea of that than I do. Please. In the 2020 census, for 77532, there were 30,108 people that lived in Crosby. So basically 30,000 people. There are some seats up there maybe, but maybe not. 11,600 housing units. So that means homes basically, but it could be an apartment, could be a trailer house, could be an RV, could even be a tent. So next slide. Of that, 90-something% are occupied, so about 10,000 actual households. The rest are either on the market or just second homes. Next slide. So in the 2020 census, 30,000, 11,000 housing units. Currently, there are 13,170 new housing units expected to develop in the next 10 years, so between 2020 and 2030. And that'll represent 36,000 new people, so more than doubling the size of the town. Now, not all those properties will sell, and not all of them will be occupied. And so probably a good estimate would be 10,000. So about doubling the size of the town. And we'll go into each one of these. These are the various new subdivisions and et cetera, housing units as they call them, and we'll look at each one. This was, go back one. So in 2020, the school district paid a lot of money for basically what I just did, but they did a better job. They did a better job. But This is Dr. Davis. And they did this because they're trying to plan for where they need schools, what age of kid is going to be living where. And you can tell that a lot by the cost of the house, whether it's a starter home or things like that. So, they're trying to place out the kindergartens and various high schools and everything like that. All right, next slide. So this is all the new subdivision. Y'all feel free to take pictures of any part of this that you want. It's maybe your last chance to see it, I don't know. Up here we have Crosby Terrace. We'll go through each one of these. Indian Springs, which is down in Indian Shores. This is Foley Road right here. And you'll see Sundance Cove there, Sonova there, Newport Grove there. This is the one that everybody kind of sees right now because there's a lot of houses going in there. That's at the end of Harecook Road, and that's Newport Point. The one that's under construction just south of it is Crosby Farms. Crosby Farms, the only thing they're doing right now is the mud district, the water and sewer plant. They're building it out. A little further down is Crosby Village. It's been there for a long time, or like 6 years now, 5 years, across from the library, but they've added some more homes. They finally built it out entirely. And so when we'll get to some of these slides, we'll see the impact between the 2020 census and now. And so when I get to those. Back here is Newport Preserve. It's in the back. Newport Enclave is there. We have 3 right here in town. Crosby Square, Gated Rental, and Dale Creek RV Park Expansion. Pecan Estates is the one behind the high school. Bellevue Group is, they're just doing drilling right now, soil samples. This is, the other one that everybody knows about is Sweetgrass Village and Barrett Crossing. This is Barrett Station right here. This is obviously Highway 90. This is 2100. Wildwood Estates, then we have Mayberry, Kodiak Crossing, which is already, it was just finishing out that subdivision. Up here we have Cedar Point, Piney Woods, a couple of smaller ones, Heritage Estates and Coyote Crossing, and then Loudon Acreage there. And go ahead. Oh, the standard lot size for these houses are about 75 by 125. So there's going to be a lot of people in a much smaller space than what we were used to in the past. Go ahead. Starting with the first one, starting at the north of town, in Indian Shores is Indian Springs. This right here is West Stroker Road. This is just a parcel of land that they hadn't built out in Indian Shores. They've started all the civil construction. They're putting in drainage right now. 583 lots. Go ahead.
Oh, yeah, said that.
Crosby Terrace is a little further down, or a little further south down. This is Heathergate Estates. This is Indian Shores Road. It is 171 lots. They're having a difficult time right now getting a plan approved through the city. But this is the last one they submitted. I don't think it was approved, but they just had some minor things that they wanted them to change and resubmit. And I could be wrong about any of this stuff, so don't take anything I say for granted. It's my best guess. Go ahead. Behind Crosby Terrace is Ranch at Dos Brisas, which is 11 lots. It's kind of behind Heathergate Estates. They have an entrance off of Indian Shores Road, and I think they're also struggling with permitting. Go ahead. This is Crosby Pine. This is Reedland Road. Killing Time Bar and Grills right here. So this is a little further south still. You can kind of see some of the other roads here. But anyway, they stripped this. They called it the Pines, but they stripped every pine that was on it off. I don't know. Maybe they made a ton of money off the pine trees. Their plan is approved, and it's 233 lots. Next slide. A 5R Ranch is on Gum Gully Road. It's 7 lots on 5.5 acres. This guy, Rene Pena, he's developed about 6 of these little bitty tiny postage stamp subdivisions around Houston, so nothing has happened. I just drove out there the other day other than him buying the lot and submitting an application with the city. Next. And so developers here are, for the most part, a lot of Crosby is in the extraterritorial jurisdiction of Harris County, and so they have to submit extraterritorial jurisdiction of Houston. So a lot of times they have to, they have to submit a plan of what they want to do. And part of that is for the detention pond, but it's also for roads, future roads. They want to make sure that their roads line up with the other roads. At the end of Foley Road is Sundance Cove. This is probably one of the nicer neighborhoods. It's one of the few that actually has waterfront. 1,000 lots. It's under construction. They're actually building homes and selling homes already. It's a good sized subdivision. This is Lake Shadow's 209 homes on more or less the same, not quite the same, but you can see if we took this much, that would be about the same amount of land. And so they're packed much tighter. Next slide. Further up Foley Road is Sonova, 1,255 lots, initially 453. And they had to go through a public hearing because they were replatting some of what was Indian Shore, Lake Shadows. This is East Lake Houston Parkway. That'll be a road that encircles the lake. We all knew it was coming. We've heard about it for years. But anyway, It's in that area right there. You can see on the main map here, it's this. This is 2100. This is Foley Road. That's Lake Shadows. Sundance Cove is there. It's here. Next slide. Newport Grove is at the end of Foley Road and 2100. So here's Foley Road. There's 2100. Here's that IUOE training facility. It's made up of 4 purchases and 252 lots. There is some work going on. I don't know if it's tied to the construction of the subdivision or not. But when I drove by yesterday, there were survey markers at line 2100 all in here. So I'm pretty sure that it's happening. You know, this is not one. Some of these, you know, you won't know. You'll never, you know, I remember years ago, there was across from the Baptist church, there was a sign that said Crosby Funeral Home. It just never happened. There he is. All right, next slide. Newport Point. Newport Point is under construction, and obviously this is the fully built out, what it will look like. It's Harecook Road. It's 2100. They're actually going to take Diamond Head north and extend it over to Harecook Road. We'll get to that in a minute in the roads when we look at the roadways. But it's obviously happening. They're building it out now. So go ahead. 554 lots. Go ahead. Yeah. Crosby Farm is just south of that. It's the one I said where they're building the water plant right here and the sewer plant. And I think they built a big detention pond. This is what it looks like when it's done. 845 lots. So, all right. Crosby Park Village. This is the one across from the library. You can see in 2019, this is a satellite view of that. Mostly it's this area right here. So in 2023, they filled out the rest of this right here. And of course, by now, they've already built out all the rest of these. So they added 53 new lots, okay? The Enclave at Newport. This is the fire station here. This land was purchased. They put up a sign. They put in a road, 69 lots, but that's all they've done. But the fact that they're putting up signs, and they actually have signs all the way down Highway 90 and 2100, so they're directing people there and having them go to their VIP list. So I'm pretty sure this will happen too, even though nothing has really happened yet, okay? Newport Preserve. Newport Preserve is in the back of South Diamond Head. And they've already sold all the front, and they're building out the back. You can see the prices here. It's not a bad little neighborhood, just like the rest of Newport. Go ahead. 150 lots, by the way. So this one right here is kind of a rough one. So this is the Y right here. That's Danny's gas station right there. So railroad track, 2100. Right there at that Y, there's only one entrance and exit to this old subdivision here. It's 108 lots. They've applied for water from the Crosby Mud District. Pretty small lots. But there's 3 subdivisions going all, or 3, we'll call it, 3 housing development sort of thing, all in the same sort of area. Next, 108 lots. Gated Rental. Gated Rental is a tiny home community. I really don't know if these are rentals, as the name says, or if these are actually long-term rentals. You know, are they overnight rentals, or are they you live there for 6 months while you're working out at Exxon on a welding job or something? I don't know. But 125 to 150 homes. I think the Velma will know more than this, but I think they've actually acquired a easeway right through here for access to their property. But basically, this is that gas station area. This is the fairgrounds right here. All right, next slide. Dale Creek RV expansion. So this is what it looked like in 2019. Since then, they've added more lots here. See these? And they're adding all of these. So 121 new sites is what I counted. Next slide. Pecan Estates. Pecan Estates is the one behind the high school. In 2019, there was nothing there. In 2024, it's basically fully built out. Not all the houses are sold yet, and not all of them are completed, but most of them are under construction. And they will be finished probably by the end of 24. Okay? Oh, what was it? Back up. Well, how many sites? 545 lots. When I say lots, because we don't know if there's really going to be a house on it or not, but that's me. Next slide. The Bellevue Group. The Bellevue Group is a little south of Pecan Estates. So there's Pecan Estates here. This is Walmart. Obviously, this is our major intersection right here. It's 343 acres. There was a contract with Friendswood a while back. Dwayne Arnold told me that he flew a drone back here and saw a drilling rig. I walked back there. I found drilling spoils, so I know they're doing soil samples. I heard that the Friendswood contract expired. Now, whether they renewed it or not, I don't know. But obviously, in January, they were still doing soil samples. So that would be about 400 to 800 lots. If you look at this as 545, now this part right here is low, but the rest of it's buildable. So I'm estimating at 400 to 800 lots. Most of these other numbers I actually got from the city or from the water district or from the developer themselves on the number of sites, but some of them I had to estimate on. Next slide. Travel Lodge RV. So right here next to Starbucks right there, this is what it looked like in 2019, 39 sites, it's about 70% occupied right now, maybe 50%. So something in that range. Next slide. Barrett Crossing. We'll go to the next slide where I'll really explain how this works, but Barrett Crossing is the backside of Barrett Station, or the south side towards Highlands. There's an entrance right here. They're building homes. They have a sales office. It's a fully master planned community. 2,000 lots, basically. So this is the big one. It doesn't look like it right here, but when we see the next slide, you'll understand. Go ahead. So Sweetgrass Village. This is the old Barnhart Ranch. And Sweetgrass Village is the one everybody passes on 1942 on their way to Baytown. And so it's building out this part here, and this much of that land is designated for Sweetgrass Village. This much of that land is designated for Barrett Crossing. The rest of this, as far as I can determine, isn't designated between either one of those two subdivisions currently. But we can tell by this one having 1,000 lots and the other one having 2,000 lots that most likely a big portion of this is probably going to be Barrett Crossing, and there may even be a third subdivision in there, another name. Ultimately, it's about 3,000 lots. Next slide. Just south of that is another RV park. It's a pretty big one. You can add up the numbers here, 11, 20, 14, so that's 30, 50, 70-acre RV park. But it's a potential RV park. It doesn't mean it's happening. There's nothing going on the property other than this investment company, KLK Partners, bought it and has suggested that's what they're going to do with it. And that would be, I don't think I put a number on here, so this isn't included in that total. There'll be a few of these where I didn't have enough information to include in the total, so we're at 30,000 new people or something like that, 36,000, but this isn't included. Next slide. A Dale Bradley RV park. So this is 1942, 2100s right here. This is the road that goes back to Barrett Mud, to their water tower and everything. It's already built. I think they're struggling with access right now. They're probably I'm not sure. But you see they paved to here and stopped, and there's a gate right there that doesn't belong to them. So there's probably some discussion about how they're going to deal with Barrett Mud over that. But 14 sites, they're just waiting on this part here to open it up. Next slide. Wildwood Lake RV Parks. Okay, so in 2019, this has been a wildly successful since 1942. It's where they pulled dirt out of the ground to build Highway 90 overpasses, I think is where the dirt was used. And you kind of look at it as wasted ground, but these people turned it into something kind of special because it stays almost 100. If you look at the satellite image, you can see that almost every site has an RV on it. And so from 2019 to 2023, they added 43 new sites right here and right there. But right now, they are currently still pulling dirt out of here, but they're also putting in RV utilities here and roads here, and they actually have some RV parked there already. So I'm estimating it's not in the number in the total I gave you earlier, but I'm estimating probably at least another 60 more RV sites over here based on what I can figure out. Next slide. Kodiak Crossing. Kodiak Crossing was more or less started way before the 2020 census, but since then they've filled it out. So that's 2019. You can see all these open spots here. It's all filled in now. So 89 new lots since the last census. Next slide. Mayberry. Mayberry is on both sides of Crinick Road. Right now this is a grass farm with a power line running through the middle of it. And I think actually the power line even turns once it gets in there. Yeah, it does, because there it is there. 965 lots. So almost 1,000 homes right there on Crinick. Next slide. Just north of that, you'll see Bohemian Hall, Highway 90, Runenberg, Lindstrom. This is Cedar Point, 901 lots. And what's somewhat unique about this one is that Yule Road, which now dead ends into Bohemian Hall, is going to come all the way over here to Highway 90. They show it going this way, but I think the actual route is here. They were trying to tie into that little crossover right there and line up with Lindstrom Road. But based on the next slide that we're going to do, I don't think they worked it out with this development here. The next slide we're going to talk about go back one, is these corners right here. And I was just kind of curious why they didn't take the whole block. But go ahead and go to the next slide. And that was because these were investors. And those investors that have unique names that kind of tell you that it's probably some sort of either a development or a real estate something or something like that. But MCB, HRV, PAT, CGR, and another MCB over here. So I did some research on all that. MCB is owned by Trey Harvey, and CGR is owned by Trey Harvey and Royce Dossick-Seal, and MCB is owned by Chad Vincent. So Chad Vincent owns some gravity. And Trey Harvey and Roy Dossick-Seal own Dossick-Seal's Construction. Most people are familiar with Royce Dossick-Seal, basically an industrial service company that of a local boy. But they bought up these corners, and I would assume that that's probably not going to be housing. It's probably going to be retail. So you're probably going to see the gas station or maybe a little strip center or maybe a small grocery store. I don't think they're big enough. Maybe this one is to put a bigger grocery store on there, but anyway. Just thought I'd throw that in here. This is actually retail, doesn't belong in this group, but go ahead. Okay, just north of Cedar Point is Piney Woods. Now, Piney Woods has brought a lot more attention when people talk about the subdivisions that they know about. This is the one that comes up more often than not. It's a manufactured home or a trailer park, but it's nicer than your average trailer park. It is a master plan community, 394 spaces. So it is this area right here, and I have a second slide on it. Go ahead. You can see here, this is what it's projected to look like. They're actually building the clubhouse now. It has a swimming pool, fitness facility, tennis courts, all that kind of stuff. They're curved streets. Every double wide has a skirt on it. They're nothing else, a pretentious trailer park. The interesting thing here is $17.7 million. That's a lot of money for 400 homes. So they obviously are spending some time on it. And Ewell Road should have come right to here, but that's Rowdy Bucks right there. So I don't think they're going to do there. I think they're going to come back here. And maybe it won't tie in with Lindstrom Road. What they want to do is they want to put an overpass right here, and they want that to line up, but they have to buy him if they're going to. Another interesting thing is on their website for Piney Woods, they tell you that the demographics say that we have 175,000 people within 10 miles of this location. Well, 10 miles in one direction is Eastgate. There's really not much out there. 10 miles the other way is, almost to Dayton. Not much that way. 10 miles. So I'm trying to figure out where they got 175,000 people when Crosby only has 30. So this may be for investors' sake. I don't know. All right, next slide. Loudon Acreage out on Sorala Road. He's working at 18 lots is what he told me. He's got 25 acres, and he's struggling with trying to get it developed. But anyway, that's a potential there. Next slide. Heritage Estates is 13 acres or 13 lots. It's on Bohemian Hall. They're building. When in 2019 they had 2 houses. I think there's 6 now. These are a little higher end than most of what was being built in Crosby. I think they're acre-and-a-half lots, and I want to say they wanted $150,000 for something like that. Does that sound right? Yeah. And so they may even come with a well, I think, as part of that deal. I'm not sure of that. Anyway, but 6 out of 13, so they're halfway there as far as being built out. Next slide. Coyote Crossing. In 2019, Coyote Crossing was just a street and a detention pond. And now, 24 lots, and 3 years later, it's built out. I think it's 100% built out. If it's not 100, it's 98. Next slide. Okay, so this ain't a subdivision. This is an apartment complex, and it's behind Shipley's. It's 36 units, 3 buildings, and so they go right here. So I want to fix me. It's on Herder Road, or actually on Red Road. Herder's over there. Next one. So they put up a sign, but I haven't found anything online about it. They applied for no applications, nothing with the city, but 32 units. This is 1942. This is where the canal crosses 1942, 2100's right back here. And but anyway, that's what it's supposed to look like, 32 units. Next one. So that's the overview. That is 33 new subdivisions, apartments, RV parks, mobile home parks, etc. So 30,000 something people. And this is the last. You're going to see this slide right here. So if you're curious about, you want to take a picture? Now's a good time. All right. Yeah.
Is that PowerPoint available online anymore?
It probably won't be.
If we, okay.
Yeah.
If we put our email on there, can we get
Yeah,
access
probably
to
not.
it? Okay.
The standard lot size, okay, go to the next one. That's a little closer, zoom in on that right there. Just shows you some of the ones, if you can't see the bigger one, but we can go ahead and go to the next slide. Oh, wait. So people have cameras up. Cameras down. Oops, one more. It gives you a good idea of where they're all located. The white kind of stands out so you can kind of see what's going on where, if it's near your house or not. That's what everybody wants to know. Is it near me?
This way.
All right, next slide. Colony Ridge isn't in Crosby. Colony Ridge is a subdivision that is in the Cleveland ISD School District, a little north of Huffman. It made a lot of news. The people there do not call it Colony Ridge. They call it either Los Terrenos, Terrenos Houston, Terrenos Santa Fe, or the new one, Los Pinos. And so it's mostly illegal aliens. People can argue with you and tell you it's not, but that's what it mostly is, in all honesty. 40,000 people already. This thing is huge. 40,000 already dwarfs Crosby. They own the land, Trey Harris and his brother, all the way to, what is that road that comes out of Dayton that goes to Cleveland? 241, 240 something. 321. From 2100 all the way to 321. This could actually be 100,000 people when it's fully built out. And it doesn't impact Crosby other than the fact that there's not a lot of these people have their shopping in Crosby. So they are bringing money in Crosby. The bigger impact is for Huffman. Huffman has kind of avoided this. And when I say avoided this, Cleveland went from a 3A school 10 years ago to a 6A school in a really short amount of time. Most of their kids are going to school in portable buildings. They're not bringing in nearly enough tax revenue for the number of people that they have and the growth. And so Huffman is sort of going to face maybe a little bit of this, not nearly as much, but Los Pinos is in their school district. 33,000 acres of land. So most of those subdivisions we were looking at in Crosby are like 400 acres. So 33,000. It's a huge subdivision. That's the only reason I included it in here, because it will have an impact on everyone around it in some way, even though it's not Crosby. Go ahead. I also took a look at large tracts of land and saw who owned them in the Crosby School District and what their potential was. And so if you see James Hoffman, well, James Hoffman is the Crosby vet. He's probably not going to build a subdivision there. But this guy, DEY Technology, which is owned by Zifa Zoo, so this is Foley Road, this is Stroker, this is Hannah Nash, Dallas Road here. This is predicted to be, not by me, but by other people. 1,720, I think the group that the school hired projected this to be 1,720 homes. And it'd probably be nice. It's a lot of waterfront property in Houston there. And there's other ones like that. So you also see Rice Land Investment. This is called Canterbury Estates. It's only partially in the Crosby School District. Most of it falls in Huffman, but it's projected to be 5,000 homes on 2,000 acres. It also includes this section right here. Matthew Porter is one of the owners of Rice Land Investment. He bought this, I think, so he'd have access to 2100 for his subdivision, so he didn't have to go down Stroker Road, around the corner, etc. You see Blossom Development. Blossom Development is actually owned by Dan Silvestri. It's one of a number of shell companies, or not shell companies, maybe shell companies. Basically, they're companies that he owns and he doesn't put his name on because he doesn't really want everybody to know exactly what he's doing. He's got one called Festive Properties and things like that. But Dan Silvestri, we'll get to him in a minute, but he is the reason that the sweetgrass is there. You see, the school district owns this right here. I don't know why. Maybe Paul Patterson will pay. Could be that they got it for taxes. I don't know. Southern Lace Estates is that DeGala place in Indian Shores, and it's up for sale now. There's actually some thought that will actually probably turn into houses. Windy Hills Development, that's Indian Springs. That's the one that's already under development. This right here is Sundance Cove. This one right here, there's no name attached to it yet. But if you look, we saw KPS Land Investments earlier on another subdivision, so this is another developer. The Ammo Group, that's another possibility. Third Texas Resource, Mark Stastny, that evil, no. 50 Crosby Pines, this was that place where I said they stripped all the pines off of and they're putting in a subdivision there. Bright Property, the same company, Lay Road Development, bought this, put this under a shell company. Timber Emerald, that sounds like it's going to be some sort of either retail or housing. Various trusts, White Rock Trust, Of course, Crosby Terrace is one of those ones that is being developed. So you can see that there's a lot of potential here, probably other people. This right here, this unknown, this right here is also projected to be a housing development. So even though we only have in that list that we totaled up there 36,000 new housing units, there's a lot of other ones that are right around the corner, 5,000, 1,700. In fact, there's 18,000 that are projected to be associated with just. Next slide. This right here is Lakewood Development Tracts. This is the rest of Newport that isn't built out on. It's not all in the floodplain. And 5,800 homes is what's projected to be on their property. Up here you see the old James Ranch. This is owned by Bessie Fielder's inheritors, I think. I think it's 1,000 acres. I could be wrong on that, but I think that's what it is, 1,000 acres there, surrounded by basically, this is Miller Wilson Road, this is Ramsey Road, this is Hare Cook, and this is Clara Wilson. So the baseball park's right there, and that's the canal. So if you're heading out Miller Wilson Road, it's all that cattle farm out there that looks like a ranch. Right now, there's nothing that I could find that's associated with it, but it's just a large tract of land that probably will happen at some point. Starlight Homes, that's the Cedar Point. Piney Woods is there. Handsome Materials is actually industrial. Brian Evans owns I guess his brother, the inheritors of this right here. They own the corner of Runneberg and a little bit of this right here. More than likely, if there's going to be an HEB in Crosby, that's one of maybe 3 places they would probably end up at. But if you really look at where the homes are being built, this isn't the most likely spot. We'll get to that in a minute. Yeah, go ahead and go to the next slide. So there's Canterbury Estates up there. That's, like I said, 2,000. It goes way up here, comes around. It's a big piece of property. Right here you have essentially three grass farm families that own a bunch of land, 2,000 acres. If this is 2,000 acres and that's 5,000 homes, this is probably 5,000 homes too. But it won't be all in one subdivision, we don't think, because there's multiple owners here. So you've got the Walton family, and you have the Murph family, and you have Mark Walker. So all that is now grass farms. And this right here is Ramsey Road here. This is Adlon Johnson, I believe. This right here is Ramsey Loop. I think that's Ramsey Loop that comes there. This is probably Adlon Johnson, I guess. So there's potential there. There's potential here. Hawkins Commercial Realty. This is obviously an investment property here. 2 of the more interesting ones that popped up here was Fei Jing, not a name that you would associate with Crosby very often. He's actually, as best I can tell, he's an Asian American singer, and this is probably, he probably has more money than he knows what to do with. He's very popular in that community, and this is probably just an investment. And at some point it'll turn into something. The weird one here is Rice University. Everybody says, Rice University in Crosby. Well, it's actually, they've owned that property for 40 years. I think it was donated to them probably in the 60s. I think the lady died and she donated, and they never did anything with the property. But in 2023, something happened with that property. We'll get to it in a second. Next slide. So this is the thing that shows all the large tracts of land, anything over, I think it's 10 acres, that changed hands between 2020 and 2023. So you see down here, and what that kind of does is it tells you pieces of property that are likely to turn into a subdivision if it's going to happen. Because they don't buy the land and let it sit for years. Usually they buy it and it's costing money, so they want to develop it. So in fact, that's exactly what happened here. This is Sundance Cove. This is what they call Windy Hills, but it's actually Indian Springs. Up here, there's some more pieces of property here. This is the one we were talking about, Rice University. I'll get to it in a minute. You can see right here, this is that mobile home, that's the mobile home park. This is the Fleming Trust, which is Cedar Point. So you can start to see some of these ones that will turn into subdivisions. And I got curious about this right here because none of these made sense, but it's a lot of land. If you add them up, all the acreage, it might turn into something. So go ahead and go to that one. Next slide. It's Chad Vincent. It's next to Cedar Bayou. That wasn't right. Cedar Bayou, but basically it's probably going to be grass farms. It's probably too low to build anything on, but you never know. But who knows? He's probably just buying up some grassland because he's probably selling what he has over here on Kennings or Krennic. I'm sorry, down here. Next slide. This right here shows you some of the ones that are happening to the south of town. So you see Bella Lago or Lago Bella. That was the original shell company that was sort of Sweetgrass Village and Barrett Crossing. And so you see some land changes down there. Over here you see Edgar Gonzalez. So Edgar Gonzalez is the guy that he's the money behind all of the extreme art ATV park down there. He owns a lot of land. He bought the Loves Marina. He bought all that land where all the people ride their four-wheelers. And he's buying up land around there. He's also selling some land now, too. But boy, he makes money hand over fist. Lots of stories associated with that one. Here's one of those festival properties. That's Dan Silvestri. We'll get to the rest of these. Go ahead. Okay, so commercial. It's the first time since 1920 Crosby's had 4 hotels. Back then we had the Crosby Hotel, the White Elephant, the Nelson Hotel, Lynch Boarding, and now we got Palace Inn, Scottish Inn, Travelodge, and okay. Retail. So retail next to the 2 ponds here, the fountains in front of Newport. This is Camille, I think is how his name, or maybe it's Camille Syed. I'm sorry if you're here and I'm abusing your name, I'm sorry. Basically, he submitted on his website this one, which is a 10-unit strip center, and I'm guessing this one here is probably going to be a 6-unit strip center with a detention pond, but he's put up signs. Now, there are some caveats to that. Retail especially. Retail, people they will sit on the property for a while. Unlike the residential subdivisions who want to build on it immediately, retail is comfortable sometimes to hold it for 10 years waiting for the right time. They don't want to build a building and not have clients or tenants. Okay, next slide. Say, Camille Syed. So he evidently owns this piece of property right here. His website says that he's building this at the corner of 2100 and Hare Road. Well, if you look at that, he owns this property. He also owns another piece back here that's green, but I think he even owns Arlen's and probably even Pesos. I'm not sure of that. I didn't check. But I think this is supposed to go here, 8,300 square foot retail center. It may not happen. All these may not happen. These are, so Camille he owns most of the strip centers in Crosby. And he doesn't have he's obviously a wealthy man, but he doesn't have super deep pockets. He's not going to develop this if somebody else develops something right there next to him that's going to compete with him because he's got to rent it out. So next slide. And that's exactly what's happening. At the corner of Hare Road and 2100, where the old White House used to sit, they're building a Fuel Max. This is actually in Huffman now in the Commons. And so that for sale sign. And supposedly this is the gas station. It's 5,500 square feet. These are the pumps here. This is Hare Road. This is 2100. And that's a 7,000 square foot strip center behind it. So that's what's supposed to go there. If that goes in, Camille may say, I'm gonna wait a while. I might never know. Next slide, especially when we get to this one. So right next to Guana Joe's, this right here, they've got their sign up, AM Always Market. This is number 13. This is what number 12 and number 11 looks like. So more than likely 13 is going to look very similar. The only difference is that this lot's a little deeper than their other lots, so there may be a strip center behind it, or who knows, so maybe something more to go with it. Next slide. The Murphy Oil gas station. Walmart's got more money to know what to do with, so they're going to tear down the Murphy station and rebuild it. So I don't know why. There's probably a good 100. I'm just being facetious. But anyway, they're supposed to tear this down. Murphy Oil owns this piece of lot. This is all Walmart right here in various strips, but Murphy Oil actually owns their own piece of property there, even though Murphy Oil is a subsidiary of Walmart, I believe. Go ahead, next slide. So Dan Silvestri owns, this is Sweetgrass Village here, this is Sorala Road, this is 1942, and this is what's predicted to go there. But this sign has been there for quite a while. I think he's waiting for the subdivision probably didn't happen quite as fast as he thought it would, and so they probably put the sign up a little premature. But I think it is going to happen eventually, but it's just probably not for 5 years. Next slide. At North Main in FM 1942. So this was I've done 8 of these presentations. They all take a tremendous amount of time. I'm sorry that most of y'all missed the other ones. They were really good. But this is probably my last one. I probably spent over 300 hours preparing this thing. But this is probably one of the more difficult ones, because even though you find out something, by the time the presentation comes along, it's already happened. We'll get to one of those in a minute. This right here is they finished this gas station. I took this picture just a few days ago, so it isn't open yet, but it will be. So when I first started, it was just the little pieces were going up, but you didn't really know what was going to be there. Anyway, all right, go ahead. This is another one of those, Tractor Supply. So in Huffman, it's due to be open March 31st. When I drove by yesterday, it looked like they had a whole bunch of cargo containers out in the thing, which I'm sure are full of all of their products. And so they're stocking the shelves right now. It'll probably be open before March 31st. I think they're ahead of schedule. It gives you an idea of what 27,000 square feet looks like. That's basically your Tractor Supply is 27. Because I was kind of wondering, is that a Walmart? Is that an HEB? But 27,000 feet is a Tractor Supply. And it costs about $4.5 million. And technically, they call it Crosby, even though we would probably call it Huffman. But
That's a Crosby mailing address.
yeah, it's a Crosby mailing address, a Huffman school district. And so there's a little bit of overlap in some of those places that are on the fringes of Crosby that we don't think about. Next slide. This is one of those. When I first found out about Marco's Pizza, there wasn't even a location. By the time I finally got the picture, now it's open. So, all right, next slide. I've been working on this for about 3 or 4 months. So, Bridge and Barrel's another one of those. This one here should have been opened 2 years ago. They've been working on it a long time. It's a high-end wine bistro sort of thing where they serve, a nice meal, probably a very nice meal with wine and craft beer. It's basically Old Town Crosby, right there at the overpass of the railroad. So, talked to the guy dozens of times about when he's going to open. I think he's working on permits. I don't know. I really don't know why. I'm still not sure. Next slide. This right here is the old Baytown Seafood. Obviously they painted red and black. I went in and got 3 different answers from the workmen 3 different times. I did see a dance hall in there. So I think it may be all 3 of these. It may be a sports bar, it may be a restaurant, and it may be a quinceanera hall. Quinceanera hall. Next slide. Same thing with this right here. Now, Donna probably knows more about what this, because of the mud district, than I do. But they built this thing. I think this picture was taken in 2019, and this picture was taken 2 weeks ago. It's still empty. That's a lot of money. This is the Chevron station across from the fairgrounds, Crosby Rodeo and Fairgrounds, and it's complete, but there's nobody in it. I don't know why they did it. I don't know what the intention was. I think it is a little bit unique of a piece of a retail property, but why it's there. All right, next slide. Arlen's was supposedly bought by the same people that own La Machoca. We have 3 Mexican meat markets. I don't know if we're fixing to have 4 or if they're going to keep the format the same. But there you go. Next slide. If you came down here a while ago and you came down Kearney Inn, you probably passed this little building right here. It's set on the lot with this pretty house taken back in 1970. It's kind of a cool picture. And it's a couple from California that they make these things, these antique shades for old houses that need these kind of pretty shades to look right. And they got tired of California and things that were going on there, so they moved here. And that is a manufacturing internet sales for a odd item, a unique item. So next.
They're very nice. They came to our
On Gulf Pump Road, if you drive down Highway 90, you see all that stuff going on where they're tearing down the trees in there, and because you're kind of elevated there, and you look off in there, there's 2 things going on there. And one of them is Concrete Mulch Company. It's not a bad choice. The land there is relatively cheap because it's in the floodplain, it floods. There's not a lot of things you can do with property that floods, but what you can do is you can put concrete on it, and you can put mulch on it. Doesn't matter if it gets wet, and you got a place to park your track hoe right up here whenever the flood comes. Good use of land. Next slide. Next door to that, so that was right here. That's Easy Crust Concrete right here. Here's Highway 90, Tractor Supplies back over here. This right here, if you look down there, you saw what looks like a bunch of trash when they cleared out the trees. Those are spools. It's a paintball field. And those spools, they actually brought them in there, and that's what you hide behind when you're shooting each other. Young guy, about 18, I think his dad maybe has some money. Don't know. If you're the 18-year-old guy and you got money, I'm sorry, but I'm just guessing. All right, next slide. So the Indian Shores 9-hole golf course, the rumor is that it's supposed to become a disc golf course, and that's what it is. It's a rumor. I wasn't able to confirm this with anybody, but that's one of the thoughts, is that it's going to be nature hiking trails and a disc golf course. Disc golf, you don't know, is basically frisbee golf. Next slide. So this is off the road barbecues, Iguana Joe's. There's a little strip of land right here, 13.7 acres. They've had it for sale. One of the people discussing, I don't think they bought it. I think they're discussing buying it. But before they buy it, they want to make sure that they can do with it what they want to do with it. And what they wanted to do was put it in a nursing home facility. I think the issue is water. I think they're trying to get water from Crosby Mud, and the mains aren't there big enough to accommodate them right now. And the disagreement is over who's going to pay for that. And Crosby Mud is probably not going to pay for that. But Don will talk to that in a minute. Next slide. On with nursing homes. This is that Rice University property. So in 2023, it changed hands. So it was just so in 2020, it was just in Rice University's hands. And then it was put in Stern Wolf Properties. And then in 2023, they changed it again to Wolf Memorial Home Number 2. Well, that gives you a little better idea of what maybe they're doing. So Paula Stern Wolf is a charitable organization that funds both Jewish nursing homes and Jewish orphanages. That doesn't mean they don't allow Gentiles or Christians in there or whatever, but that's their aim. They have, if you look at Wolf Memorial Home Number 1, that's over in Bissonnette, and it's a Jewish elderly home. And so they've probably maxed out on the number of beds or rooms, and this is probably an expansion thing. And they probably left Rice University's name on there because Rice University probably gets a better tax rate than maybe even they do. I don't know. I don't know. But since there's some changes going on with the ownership of the property, somewhere down the road, this might happen. There you go. Excellent. So like I said earlier, when Sundance Cove announced their 1,000 home community down at the end of Foley Road, they ran this picture with it. Well, this isn't 1,000 acres, this is 30 acres. And it's at the end of Foley Road in 2100. The other end, way down here, is where Sundance Cove is. But what a lot of those developers do is they know that they're bringing in 1,000 homes, and those people need to buy groceries. So this is probably a shopping center. And if I had to guess, especially when you look at the last map back there were 6,000 homes being built in a 1 mile radius of this intersection. That's a really good place for an HEB. One of 3 good places for an HEB. And it's big enough. 30 acres is actually, there's actually a Checkers gas station on this corner already. So they're already sold off some of it for that, or maybe they're leasing it, I don't know.
Location again, please.
This is 2100. This is Foley Road. So gas station right there, this is Pine Forest, I think. Yeah. I'm not familiar with the brands of gas, but there's 2 gas stations here on this corner at the end of Foley Road. All right, and actually this piece of property right here is also for sale too right now, so another possibility. Go ahead. So Haircook, Diamond Head, 2100. These are all, the plot size will tell you they're strip centers. They're probably not a large shopping center with an anchor like an HEB. So that's probably what these are. But ultimately, those will be there. They're all, on the market right now. Okay? So this is Dan Silvestri. If you want a target for somebody, you're mad at all this change that's coming, this is the guy right here. Put him on your dartboard. Dan he's from a wealthy Canadian family. His family has owned some of the largest shopping malls in Canada. They own logging facilities. They own lots of retail. He came down here in the 80s and decided that he wasn't going to make his fortune where his dad made his fortune. He was going to make it in Texas and Florida. And so he's bought land, and one of those lands he bought was the Barnhart Ranch, which he developed. In addition to that, he also bought 200 acres here at the end of Stroker Road in 2100. That's another possibility for an HEB. That's a lot of land. It could also be a subdivision. It could even be a subdivision and a retail center. It's a corner lot, so it's a possibility. He also owns these little strip center lots here that he kept out of the development for Barrett Crossing and for Sweetgrass. And then he went back here and he bought 50 acres back here at the corner of Soralla Road. So Soralla Road, it makes this little big S-curve right there. He bought that as well. That could just be a detention pond. It could be something later on down the road. Who knows? But anyway. But he's the guy that this was going to happen, whether we all wanted it to or not. This was going to happen. Crosby was eventually going to grow. If you look at Harris County or the Houston Metroplex or the Houston area there, every side of Houston has grown except for Crosby-Huffman. And we've been kind of isolated. We've had the best of both worlds. We get to live next to one of the biggest cities in the world with all the jobs and still live in the country. And so it probably won't continue, though. Go ahead. These are some of the other raw lands that are available right now that are on the market. There's also in here that I didn't show. This is 60 acres. That's more likely to be a subdivision than it is retail. This is 30 acres. Same thing there. Here's the fire station right here on 90. I think there's 40 acres there or 38 or something like that. That could be either one. Could be a thing. This right here is probably more of a small subdivision, but the rest of these are probably going to be commercial just because of their location. There's even something back here in Newport by the Country Club that's actually marketed as retail. So, okay.
Is that larger red circle, I think that's right on Bohemian?
If I had to guess where Bohemian Hall is, this right here is Bohemian Hall. And if I had to guess, this right here is probably Krennic or maybe Runneberg. No, see, Runneberg would be right back here. So that's probably Krennic.
So one of the areas down Bohemian Hall, noticed yesterday, they were already moving in dirt.
Yeah. Yeah, that happens fast when it does happen. The Tracos show up, and a few days later, you think, oh, there's something being built there, you know. And actually, they've already been engineering it, planning it for 2 or 3 years before we ever know about it. Go ahead. Walgreens was on the market a few months back, maybe 5 months ago, maybe 4 million, I can't remember. And then it was removed. Maybe that number's, I'm terrible at numbers. So, I don't know if it's sold or if they just decided to take it off the market. Kind of interesting. But right next door to it is the Dollar Tree Plaza. It's for sale. And then Buffy Campbell here has, she needs 93 more signatures for an HEB for her. And so if you want an HEB, if you're going to get the rest of the stuff, you might as well get an HEB, right? Right. Yeah. So if you want to, go to her little thing there and sign up for her petition. Her goal is 500. She's really close. And she's been at it for like 2 years. What does that say, 2021? Yeah, 3 years now. Next slide.
What's the website?
Also, the old Love's Marina on Old 90, Edgar Gonzalez, the guy that owns Extreme, he bought this. I think he got tired of doing both. More money. The ATVs make more money than he probably makes off of these cabins, and they're probably also less trouble. You take the money at the gate, you don't really pay attention to them unless you have to call the ambulance for them. This right here gets flooded all the time, and there's a lot to lose every time when it happens. All right, $2.5 million. So if you got $2.5 million, there's your spot right there. Pretty little cabana place. Actually, wait, they're actually building another one of these now. He's actually going to get some competition, so think about that before you spend your $2.5 million. On the other side of Highway 90 on San Jacinto, on New 90, they're putting in one of these as well. They've had a little ATV rental place going over there, but they're building all the little palapas right now. So he's gonna have same sort of thing on higher ground. They won't have to worry about flooding as much. So they can build more long-term facilities there. Things like, anyway, next slide. So religious and civic projects. This is it's always fun for me to look back at the old pictures. I love the old pictures. So Crosby School, if you've never been here before, you've probably seen these pictures. Crosby's first church, more or less. Crosby's first courthouse. Oh, that's right, we had a courthouse and a jail. Who would have thought? Playground facility and old log cabin. Yeah, go ahead, next slide. All right, so the Goodwill facility. This isn't a done deal. This is in talks right now. But Faith Family Church right now has been for like 2 years out of the middle school, maybe longer. That's just how long I've known about it, maybe. But they're looking for a permanent home. They have a big home in Baytown, but for their Crosby campus, this is a possibility. Goodwill wants to be out. I don't think they can compete with CUIC. Thank you, Brother Larry. But anyway, or Shirley, where's she at? But anyway, that's one of the possibilities there. Next slide. Another one. So this one got a lot of attention as well, the Crosby Islamic Center. So out on Ramsey Road, Ramsey Loop's here. I think Kilgore Lane's about right in here. They bought 25 acres. It's got a house back here in the back. Originally, it was supposed to be a tiny home community. Didn't work out. People don't really like tiny homes that much. Interesting enough, I think, so Muslims hold their holy days. Well, it's all 7 days are holy days. It's not Christians where we go on Sundays or etc. There's this Friday. And I drove by on a Friday, and there were a bunch of cars in front of the house. So I'm thinking they're probably already holding services there. Don't know. The goal for for a Muslim is to actually worship 5 times a day. Short ceremonies, 10 minutes, and back to work. And a lot of times they'll do that at their work, especially if they own their own convenience store. If you ever go in the back of a Muslim-owned convenience store, there'll be a prayer room, someplace that faces Mecca with a rug on it, and they will pray to Mecca 5 times a day. Ideally, they would be able to be close enough to go to the mosque. And so what these people really hope is that there's a large Muslim community surrounding this. So if you have land here, talk to Velma afterwards. There's probably going to be a lot of people who, if you have a large community trying to move in and they're all trying to get close to something, it works into your advantage. So anyway. Go ahead, next slide. Of course, our museum. It's Crosby area. If you don't know what the Crosby Area Museum of History, camo. So there you go. You know, wear your camo shirts. Go ahead. The high school. The high school wants to build, or is building, as an addition to the high school to accommodate 600 more students. Now, Paula will either correct me or get more information on this when she gets up and talks. But these are some fun facts about the Crosby ISD. We have almost 6,700 students at the end of last year. 2,000 of those are high school students, 1,500 are middle school students, and the rest of them are younger kids. Between the end of last year and this year, we added almost 200 students over the summer. So that kind of gives you a frame of reference of how many people are moving in. And their high dollar people that they paid for predict 10,000 homes in 10 years. Now, ours said 13,000 lots we didn't predict, but that's probably a good number. It's kind of weird because I found this information after I did all my research, and it kind of matched up. So probably around 10,000 new homes in the next 10 years. They're currently spending $22 million for overdue maintenance back in the Keith Moore's period. We got in a financial bind, the school district did. And so Dr. Davis came in and kind of put everybody on a steer plan. And the steer plan didn't include a lot of maintenance to the schools, so now they're having to make up for that. So, and if you're wondering right now, 48 cents per 100, I don't know how that stacks up against other school districts. Next slide. Here's some more stuff right here. So Crosby, 67, so I think we were at 6,700 on the last page. Cleveland ISD, like I said, went from 3A to 6A in about 10 years. They're at 11,000, so that's what a 6A school looks like. Wow. Sheldon, I was surprised, is as big as they are. Huffman, 3,700. Huffman is probably going to be the last place in Harris County to grow. So if you just got 10 more years left of life and you want to stay in the area, move to Huffman, and it'll feel like Crosby. So Liberty ISD, Alvin ISD, you can kind of see some of the numbers there. This right here shows a 2015 growth period and what they assume Crosby will be by 2032, which was their 10-year thing from 2022. And you can see we're at 12,500. That's middle of the road. That would be worst case scenario. This would be, maybe more realistic. I don't know. Crosby is currently the 51st fastest. Think of that. Between 2021 and 2022, Crosby was the 51st fastest growing 5,000 plus, in other words, a 5A school kind of thing, in the state. Out of 1,720 towns in Texas, between 2020 and 2010, Crosby was the 183rd fastest growing city or town in Texas. Between 2020 and 2030, we will probably be in the top 50. There are some towns that are tripling in size. We're only doubling in size. So, but anyway, go ahead, next slide. So they're building a new emergency service district. This is an ambulance station, they call it ESD. And this is station number 3. It's at the end of Stroker Road in 2100. It's a little bit off the corner. And I think the guy was up here all around Baja. I think he's in that picture. I think it's him right there.
James,
I'm sorry, Ralph's blurred. So anyway, that's that one. Next slide. And then they're building another one on Highway 90 and Lindstrom Road. They bought 2-acre sites here. I didn't find a plan for this right here. There wasn't an architectural drawing for it yet. The other one is actually, they put up a steel frame already, so it's already, 30% of the way there. Got the slab and the structure up. But this one is interesting and has access to the Lindstrom Road and onto Highway 90. So that's station number, they call it 5, but let's go ahead, next one. It's actually, so station number 1 is behind the Springs Ammo and Gun right there off of Newport Road. And supposedly they bought some land right there next to this will make getting out a little easier. I don't know which way the land is configured. I'm sure Bellman knows. But number 2 is on 1942. Number 3 is the one we just talked about, or on West Stroker, and this one's on Highway 90. So they strategically located them in various parts of Crosby. And I was confused. I know I'm stupid. I was confused over fire stations and ambulances, but the funding is different. So ambulances, the money comes from your county property taxes. Fire station, volunteer people, but the money comes from sales taxes. So when you buy something at Walmart, and I don't know if they get money from the county as well, but they get 1% of every sale. So 8.25, 1% of the 8.25 goes to the fire department, and 1% goes to the Crosby Mud. Next slide. And they have 5 fire stations, which I did not know. So there's one Highway 90, Fire Station number 1, Highway 90 in Kennings Road, one on South Diamond Head, 2 nice ones, 1 and 2. Out in the country, you have one on Foley Road, you have one on Eastgate Road, number 4, and then on 1942, you have number 5. So 5 fire stations and 4 ambulance stations. Next slide. Infrastructure. You build 30 new subdivisions, 33 housing developments. You have to have infrastructure to support all this. So here's some fun facts. These are some original roads being built in Crosby. This is a Tascasita Road being built. This right here is, I think, 1942 or maybe 2100. It's the road from Crosby to Worcester, and Worcester was Baytown. So that could either have been 1942 or it could have been 2100. I don't know. This right here, I think, is Crosby Eastgate, or maybe this one is. But the first road was Goat Pump Road, built in 1842. So Crosby, came to being 1823, had a bicentennial. So a long time ago, we had a road that ran down to the ferry. Next slide. So Crosby Mud is running water and sewer lines that extend the east side of Highway 90 at Church Street and then extend to Runneberg Road. And this is for the Cedar Point subdivision. So Cedar Point's paying for this, as best I understand. Connie can correct me. But the big deal is, once you get water and sewer over there, that was the thing that was killing all. Everybody says, why don't we have a Home Depot or whatever on Highway 90? Well, it's because they didn't have water and sewer over there, and now they do. So now when Home Depot comes knocking and they want to build a retail outlet center there, they'll have water and sewer. They don't have to put in their own mud plant like they would have had to do. So anyway, that's what's going on there. Do you see all this? It also went all the way down Runneberg Road, and right in there is where Cedar Point's going to be, sort of thing. So next slide. I just threw this in here. It kind of shows you all the various utility districts in and around Crosby. The dark green one here is Crosby Mud, but each one has their own little one. I think this is Barrett right here. Maybe this is Barrett right here. That must be Pecan Estates, I guess. Yeah, I guess it is. Yeah. But you can see there's quite a few of them. They're patchwork, so we're not a city, but anyway. All right, next slide. Roads. Everybody wants to know about roads. So I checked the Texas Department of Transportation. There was only 3 things that were there listed on there in Crosby proper, and all 3 of them are more or less 1942. But basically, they were going to some riprap along a drainage ditch, and then a flashing light at Lindstrom Road, and then some centerline texturing on 1942. We go to the next slide. But right across the county line, headed towards Dayton, Cedar Bayou is right here. At this first little gas station there that you kind of pass by there's a little Shell station there. They're building an overpass. And when I got to look at this, is the first of 7 overpasses. Now, whether all of them will be built, I don't know, but that's what the planning is right now. So we'll go to the next slide. And you can, all right, well, I was going to tell you something that's in the next slide, but that's okay, I'll start right here. So Crosby's in a unique thing. Part of Crosby's in the Houston extraterritorial jurisdiction, which means they sort of plan our roads. The city of Houston does. That's this part. And here, kind of where that is, that's the yellow right here, that's the extraterritorial jurisdiction. And you can see it kind of goes all the way to Highway 90, then it kind of drifts off, and it covers this part here, but it doesn't cover out here if you live along Bohemian Hall, etc. And so this map is only good. We'll stop in a minute to look at all this. But this map is only good for part of Crosby. So, but an interesting thing here, this picture fit here, was the Miller-Wilson Road exit. If you haven't driven on the Grand Parkway, which I'm sure a lot of you have, but there's a Miller-Wilson exit road there. So Miller-Wilson is a little road in Crosby by the baseball park. Well, it's supposed to go all the way out to the Grand Parkway eventually. Next slide. So, since it's in all these various planning groups, Houston extraterritorial jurisdiction, Baytown extraterritorial jurisdiction, Liberty County, Harris County, all 4 of those groups or whatever got together, created a short-term organization that they had one purpose, which was to plan roads for Crosby, and it was Public Infrastructure Department. And the map is kind of hard to read. I put it all on a better map. We'll see it in a minute. But the dark green area is the one that belonged to nobody. So that's just Harris County. And you can see this is Highway 90, I think. Oh, this is probably Bohemian Hall Road right here. Same sort of thing here. This is for that. This is where you start seeing those. Remember I talked about 7 overpasses? Well, that's what these guys right here. These are all planned overpasses at some point. And the one they're building right now is right here. And so if you add all those up, this is Yule Road coming through here. This is Bohemian Hall. This is Adlon Johnson. This is probably Crosby Eastgate. I get mixed up. Maybe Lord Road, I don't know. This is the one coming out of Spindletop. I think they call it Pine Island or something. But this is 99 over here. You see all these roads coming from Crosby crossing Cedar Bottom. But we'll go to the next slide. The outfall of that meeting where all those groups got together was that they changed the designation for certain roads. And what that does is allow more money to flow into certain roads. So if you call it a thoroughfare, you can spend more money on it. The tax dollars can be spent on that road. If you call it a feeder street, a little less, but still way more than a county road or a country road or whatever, or Miller-Wilson Road. Miller-Wilson Road doesn't get much more than just maintenance kind of thing. But thoroughfare, we get a lot more. Thank you. You knew exactly what I needed. I saw her that drops in the floor. Good guy. So next slide. Wait, go back. This right here was another one of those maps. But there's something wrong with this right here. This is not how it ended up being. So this one's actually pretty easy to read, but we'll go to the next one. If you want to take pictures, this is a really good time to take pictures. There's 2 of these maps. We'll show you the next one in a few minutes. What the red indicates is a road that doesn't exist right now. It's a brand new road. The big thing here is East Lake Houston Parkway. So 2100, everybody comes in here. What the blue indicates is existing roads that are now thoroughfares will probably be curved 4-lane roads. Probably even divided roads eventually. Kind of like what they're doing with 2100. So you can see that a lot of the old roads of Crosby that were, you had this much shoulder, and if you went out, if you tried to park in the shoulder, you ended up in the ditch. They will be big roads now. And some of the interesting things here. So now North Diamond Head will go all the way from way back here, all the way to Adlon Johnson Road. Adlon Johnson Road will go all the way to Huffman. Miller-Wilson will go all the way to 99. Ramsey Road will go all the way to 1960. This is Hannah Nash Dallas Road right here. It'll tie in Foley Road, which will go from here all the way to Adlon Johnson. Live Oak, which is the one that comes out of Spindletop, will go all the way over here to 99. Yule Road will go from 90 all the way to 99. Krennic Road will go all the way from Highway 90 all the way to Highway to the Grand Parkway. Viadora. So everybody, the big problem with Crosby right now, 100 can't carry the amount of traffic it has to through the middle of town. Everybody says we need a bypass. Well, the bypasses are in the works. I don't know when they'll happen. Obviously, it'll be 4 years after they should have happened. But so this right here is Golf Club Drive. It comes around. We've all heard about Viadora. And Viadora comes around. We'll get to those in just a minute. What else needs here? I think Runnenberg Road will be a 4-lane road all the way out to here. All right, here's a big one right here. So Lord Road. Lord Road is going to circle all the way around, come down through here, tie into an existing road, I think, back here. And it's going to come all the way around and come all the way back over here. And it's going to be almost like Loop 610 around Crosby. Next slide. So here's Lord Road coming all the way down here, tying all the way back to and that's Red Summit Drive by the high school. Here's Viadora coming out of Newport. It ties in there. Golf Club Drive ties into here. So you will be able to get to, sorry. Right here is that overpass that doesn't go anywhere in Crosby. When you're on Highway 90 and there's just they dump dead dogs there, I think. Well, that's going to be tied into this Lord Road. It probably won't be called Lord Road. I think they have another name called Town Center Road or something like that on the maps that I saw. But basically, it's going to wrap all the way around the center of town, all the way like that. Way back here, Seaburg Road is going to kind of do the same thing. Sorala Road will run all the way to Highlands over here at Wallaceville. There'll be a road that comes out of the backside of Barrett Station right here in 1942. Another entrance is Garrett Road way over here in Sheldon. Is going to continue on. Right now, there's a turn right here, where it kind of dips down and you feel like you lost side of the road, and then it turns underneath you while you're still going. Well, that's going to continue on, and East Lake Houston Parkway will come all the way around the lake. Actually, it doesn't go all the way around the lake. It goes here, and then up here it goes like this. So once it gets to the top part of the lake, it just leaves and does something else. But you'll be able to take Old 90 and come into Crosby. You'll be able to take that road, that exit there to that overpass that doesn't go anywhere, into Crosby and then into Newport. Or you can go this way and go all the way back to to parts unknown there. But you can see there's a lot of roads. 20, I think I counted 22 new what they call thoroughfares. So anyway, next slide. All right, if you build roads, everybody says, what about the drainage problem? We don't want to flood again. So they're building detention ponds. So this one's actually they're building right now. If you drive back in the back part of Dreamland Place, everybody says, where's Dreamland Place? So this is 2100. This is 1942. If traffic backs up, you can cut through right here and come around right there. Well, that's Dreamland Place. And right now it's like a 15-acre detention pond. And there's one here too. And in addition to all that, they put in larger culverts so that all this drains better to that. But this affects more Barrett Station than it does Crosby. Next one. So if you live in Newport and you know where Viadora is at, Viadora is eventually going to become, it's a divided highway now, or divided roadway, even though it doesn't go very far, but it is the road into Newport eventually, probably if you work in Houston. They bought 8 acres here in the back part of that. This is what we call Low Woods. This is the old Black Hope subdivision that they made the movie about because the ghosts were there. But anyway, there's a triangular shaped spot. Piece of property didn't really have a good use for anything else. Boy, what a great idea. Put an 8-acre detention pond there. Next slide. If you live on 1942 and you flooded in Harvey, you're probably you're going to be thankful for this one. So this is the Clausen ditch. So actually, Clausen's an old family name, but when they put these detention ponds, they usually here's the ditch. It goes from here all the way to where it dumps into Cedar Bayou. So the ideal location for those detention ponds is in the middle part. If you put them at the headwaters, there's not enough water there to catch. So they want to catch it halfway down before it floods Cedar Bayou and hold that water. And so they did a study, and the study said the engineers said they needed 155 acres. That's a lot of land. They managed to buy 62.63 acres, but they haven't started any construction. I drove out. And it's kind of in that little section where maybe that place it's like Bob and Jean's, Hard Times there, but there's a little bitty gravel road. It's a good place to dump dead bodies. If anybody wants to dump a dead body, here's a spot. Yeah. So this little road comes off of 1942 right here, and it's just a gravel road, and you go back there, and there's actually a concrete plant and a dumpster manufacturing place back there. They make dumpsters, I think. And right next to this is, I think, the concrete plant. So right there, they bought 62 acres. They could easily buy another 62 acres on this side, but they still need, looks like, 80 acres to fulfill their goal. Next slide. The Adlong ditch. So if you live out on that side of town where Highway 90 meets Cedar Bayou, the Adlong ditch they wanted 120 acres. And so I know they talked to the Glover family, buying one of their areas of grass farm there. I don't think the deal got consummated, but I do know there's been discussions. That doesn't mean the deal won't get consummated, or maybe has, and I just don't know it. But I don't think it's a full 120 acres. So anyway, somewhere in here, there will probably be a 120-acre detention pond. Next slide. This is another one. This is the best name for this one they have. They call it no-named, unnamed. My buddy Mark grew up out there. He calls it the Gully. So we'll call it the Gully. So the Gully, this is Spindletop, right here. So we're back. Right here is Spindletop, I think, Plaza Circle. And so it kind of runs there. It crosses Highway 90 there. And they didn't say how many acres they need. They didn't conclude that. The engineers didn't do the calculations on the piece of thing that I got. But more than likely, this is 60 acres that they're going to need there. So Don Ellisor, your place is about right there. Oh, he's gone. Anyway, it's a good chance that they need to buy his place. Next slide. If you saw this slide yesterday and you voted on a banking facility, you're kind of right. It's the most, next slide. It's called the Crosby East State Wetlands Mitigation Bank. And so the Army Corps of Engineers requires if you build this many roads, you've got to offset that with some land that you're not going to do anything else with. And I don't know if they'll make it into a park with some places to walk and things like that, you know, but basically they're saying there's set aside some land that nobody can touch. And so this occurs way out on Crosby Eastgate Road. It's just right here. It backs up to it's at the very edge of our it's probably the least expensive land in Crosby sort of thing. But it's 240 acres of wetlands bank. Next slide. If you build that many houses, you got to have electricity. So if you haven't been out on Danick Road lately, here's Bob and James. This is 1942. This is Danick Road right here. This was a Mark Walker grass farm out here. They bought the back half of his property, the back quarter, and they put in 8 gas turbines, 288 megawatts. 1 megawatt equals 200 homes. So if you do the math, you end up with about 60,000 homes this thing will support. It's due to be online next month. And so we're getting close. And so it's a lot more electricity for all these homes. That tells you that something is going to happen. They don't do this kind of stuff unless something is going to happen. Next slide. If you go down 1942, this is Bohemian Hall, 1942. You pass that little substation right past where the old auction house was, or Stump Farms. And you see all that construction with guys in hard hats and everything, and it looks like they're building a chemical plant. What they're really building is a battery storage facility. This is the coolest thing in the whole deal. If your power goes out 3 times a week, and you have to go in and set the VCR, or the oven, or whatever you got to reset, whatever clock in your house that goes out that doesn't reset itself, this right here will run all of our power for 3 hours. So if the power outage is less than 3 hours, it shouldn't happen anymore. And it goes online May 7th of 2023. This is 150 of these things, which are 18-wheeler sized battery packs. In addition to that, this one's by the Citadel Bess is building this one. So it's kind of a third party. They're building it for Centerpoint. Centerpoint pays them to use it. But Centerpoint also owns this land, and they leased this land to put in another one of these. So there may be even more. So we may even get more than 3 hours. Or as more homes come on, maybe it gets down to where it's 15 minutes. I don't know. It's 201 megawatts. So, it's a lot of homes. But anyway, go to the next slide. Coolest thing yet, though. On the other side of town, out towards Huffman, straddling the Liberty and Harris County line, is a solar farm. One of 2. So this is 1,000 acres. This is an actual picture of the spot. So it's actually under construction right now. I couldn't find the date that it's supposed to be open, but I would assume by this summer, based on where they're at now. You can see these things don't take a long time to go up. The biggest thing is to get all these solar panels arranged correctly, I think. But it's big. Here's that wetlands mitigation thing right here. And so these guys are looking for the same thing, cheap land. And here's the county line. This is Ramsey Road right here. I think it turns into Old Atascocita Road right here, and that's Wolf Island. So it's way out in the far reaches of what would be called Crosby. The Harris County line bisects it. So there's also a Liberty 2 solar that I think is on the opposite side of Liberty County. And so Liberty County gets the benefit of both of them. Yeah, good thing. Well, luckily our hail, that is a good thing actually. We don't have large hail normally. We don't have golf ball size hails or even palm green size hail. So solar panels actually, they're not great for our area. They're better for the desert. We have too many clouds and too many rainy days. But if they want to waste their money, our money. Next slide. Industrial. So some old pictures of Crosby. This is them placing the telegraph lines in the 1890s. These are 2 early cotton gins in Crosby. This right here is the Crosby train depot, and they're delivering a heat exchanger. And the coolest thing is I found another picture taken in Baytown of that heat exchanger in use.
Oh, cool.
So, yeah, it's pretty cool. In the 1920s, Crosby. If you want to brag on something about Crosby, you're talking to somebody from Baytown. Baytown was built out of the Crosby train depot. So they didn't have a train back then. So everything that was built, the Humble plant had to come through early on, at least through Crosby's train depot. And also through LaPorte's shipping port. But anyway, go ahead, next slide. If you've passed this right here on 1942, and it looks like a military facility with all these little cameras and everything, there's a gate there, and you're thinking, what the heck is down that road? Well, what down that road is a tank farm. And so Energy Transfer is probably the only Fortune 500 company in Crosby. the thing about these kind of things is they start off small sometimes and they get bigger and bigger and bigger. And so Kimco started the same way. It's a really tiny plant. It's gotten to be much bigger. I mean, when it was built, we'll get to one in a minute. It's kind of like that. It was a postage stamp. It's not much bigger than that now, but it's 10 times bigger than what it was when it first was built. And this company just recently built this maintenance facility a little further down 1942. And so, obviously they're committed to the area. So anyway, next slide. This is that other plant. So this is Yule Road. This is what they call Mark Road, which comes off of Runneberg. There's a guy there. His name is Trim Benjamin Jones, and he built RPD Technologies, which has a 40-foot tall batch distillation column. They use these right here when a plant wants to try a new process, but they don't want to build the whole plant to find out, and they want to do it bigger than what they can do in their lab. They go rent a facility like this. This is what Kimco used to be, and they tried out on a larger scale. I think this distillation column actually has a lot of glass, so you can actually see the chemical process going on inside the distillation column as it happens. So you can see a distillation column. They take things like you take oil, and if you separate oil, crude oil, you get your gasoline, your asphalts at the bottom, and your propanes and stuff at the top. Anyway, you can see it's behind his house, but it's already gotten pretty big already. That's a pretty good sized industrial little thing there for out in the middle of nowhere. So it might grow to be bigger and bigger. So if you're Rick Rook and you live out there, you might not like this going on next to you. I don't know. Next slide. This is one of those things this is Barbers Hill Road. 1942 is right here. So Barbers Hill Road comes around like it's right here, I think. Well, actually, Barbers Hill runs into Garth Road, I think, right here. 1942 comes over there. Back in 2009, they built this. But over time, all these companies get bigger and bigger. So they just built this facility, which basically doubled the size of what they had. And it's an industrial services company. So we live so close to Barbers Hill and Baytown and Pasadena that has all these industries going on there. But there's a lot of companies that service those things, service those industries. And they need cheap land. They don't want to be in Pasadena. They want to be out in the farmland someplace where they can still drive and deliver their product, but not have all the zoning requirements of a city or whatever. So this right here, they use carbon, basically husk from coconuts to make, and they burn that. It makes carbon, which makes a really good filter. And so they load them they load all this filter stuff into a trailer, and they go to a site, and they can pump whatever it is they're trying to filter out through their trailer and back in, and it cleans it, and then they bring all this stuff back over here and dump it in the ditch right there. So just yeah, Eddie, you want to take care of that? A blue Rubicon? Okay, I gotta go fast, but I'm almost at the end. All right, so this guy right here, Global Container Industries on Barbers Hill Road. It was a raw pasture land in 2021. Now it has the largest, probably the tallest facility in Crosby. It's 8 stories tall, but it's just shipping containers. But, there's a lot of them, and they sell a bunch of them. Next slide. So this right here was the Crosby Business Park. Arkham was right there. This was supposed to be an industrial park. They went bankrupt February 7th of 2023. Don't know what's going to happen to the property next. But next slide. The IUOE is a world-class training facility for people that operate bulldozers, large earth movers, cranes, plants, and people come from all the world, all across America, and the whole world. They stay in these dormitories for 3 to 6 months. They take classes there every day. There's a really first-class kitchen there. If you live on Foley Road, you might try and sneak in and get a meal. It's unusual that they picked Crosby. I asked the guy, why did y'all pick Crosby? And it was the location between the 2 airports and the fact that we don't really have a winter here. So they can dig year-round. Up north, that's more your unionized stuff, is up north, but the ground's frozen. So they want to be able to work year-round, train people year-round. Next slide. This is the last slide, if we want to stop here. So this is a little bit out of Crosby's area. Crosby's school district ends right here. This is 99. This is Highway 90. Dayton's up here. This area right here. Right here is one of the 4 or 5 largest train yards in America. It holds about 5,000 rail cars. They're going to expand it for another 2,700 rail cars. And all this right here is an industrial park. It's called Gulf Inland Logistics Park. And it'll be things like, say, a Walmart warehouse or a Home Depot warehouse. Yes, sir.
Hey, whoever has the blue Jeep out there, if you could move, we have a lady that she needs to leave right now. So if you got a blue Jeep, 4-door, where's the parking?
It's the first guy in line, so it's good. The Rubicon blue.
Okay.
There you go.
All right.
Good deal. All right, so I can go. If that's the case, I'm going to go ahead and go to the next 3 slides, and then we're done. Okay, so those other slides got me thinking about all these little service industries that are in Crosby and what some of them do. And, because we see the big metal buildings, and we always wonder what they do in there. So, Hanson Aggregate. Hanson Aggregate, if you buy concrete in Crosby, most likely the aggregate came from here. Concrete in Harris County. So, every concrete plant in Harris County basically gets their aggregates shipped into this little place right here along Highway 90, or Adlon Johnson's along Highway 90. And they have a huge rail yards, a rail circle there. They probably could store 500 rail cars there that are filled with aggregate, and they put them on trucks, and the trucks take them to concrete plants, and that's how you get your cement. Certifab makes vessels for plants. A&F General Contractors, Big Green Building, Adlon Johnson, they build these kind of buildings, as well as other kind of buildings, skyscrapers, etc. This is just their sort of a lay-down shop, things where they can fabricate them up. Seaboard Controls makes electronic panels for plants and for big ships. And instrument panels as well. Buffalo Steel Fabrication, I think, makes the I-beams and things like that, or maybe they just cut them up and turn them into what would be a metal building. Meter Engineers makes meters that were for plants. Let's go to the next slide. I'm trying to go fast here. On Sorala Road, we have a very large place that makes mulch. Ingredient Logistics has the dog. Everybody assumes it's dog food. Actually, it's a trucking company that transports dog food ingredients. Neighbors Drilling is for onshore oil wells. Brevard Transportation is actually this part of that on Highway 90, and they carry very large pieces for plant. It's a transport company, obviously. Our Crosby, this is that ready-mix concrete plant that's down that road. They call it, it's not FM 1942, it's Grand Poto Lane or something like that. Machine Works over on Bohemian Hall. It's supposed to be a machine shop. This neighbor has opened up. Somebody stole their wire on and kind of killed them. Crosby Pallets makes pallets in the old Travel Lodge lot. Go ahead. American Precisions makes first-class flanges and things like that, components for plants. Hunter Well Point. If you're drilling a deep hole to put in a big footing or something like that, well, our groundwater is pretty high here, so they come in and they drill water wells all the way around that hole that you're drilling, and they suck out the groundwater so that those guys don't have groundwater running into their hole while they're working on it before they pour the concrete. DP Communications puts in telephone systems for like industrial facilities or large commercial buildings, things like that. These are massive things. Oil Tubular, if you're drilling one of those deep holes, for a water well or for carbon injection or anything like that, or for oil, they size the pipe and tell you the wall thickness. Industrial Sand Products, that's their sand yard. That's a big sand pit. And then right next door to them is Mineral Tech Gulf Coast Abrasives. They take some of that sand, they combine it with asphalt, and they make the toppings for roofs, so your asphalt roofs, and also for sandblasting. Next slide. R.L. Dascasilla is basically a handyman for plants. So anything they need mowed or fixed up or whatever like that, painted, any little project that a plant needs done that they're not going to hire an engineering firm for, that's what they do. Hallmark Industrial, they make large pipelines and the components of that. Safe Rescues are kind of an unusual thing. They train your firemen and things like that are in chemical plants how to rappel and get in tall structures. Summit Industrial builds pipe racks and things like that for plants. Turnkey Metal Fabricators, I think they build dumpsters. That's the other one down there, that current prototype. That's the last slide. Is it the last slide?
I need to leave already, but I'm just going to be late.
Yep, that's it. Thank you very much. And who's up next? Is it Paula Patterson? Yes, sir. I have no idea. So Crosby really can't incorporate the old part of Crosby. I'm sorry, colleagues. We belong to Houston. We can't incorporate without their permission. If we ask for permission for them to incorporate, they will immediately absorb us. Not all of Crosby, but if you lived in anything on this side of Highway 90. There's a guy, Gene Hicks told me one time, he says he fully thinks that at some point everything on one side of Highway 90 will belong to Houston, and everything on the other side of Highway 90 will belong to Baytown. So, all right. That's
Thank
it.
you.
Thank you.
All right, thank you, Jody. That's some great information. I know a lot of it, but just sitting and listening to it just leaves me with wow. As they load the presentation, since Jody's been throwing me under the bus all afternoon, I'm going to keep that same thing. If you have any questions about the history of Crosby ISD, Mike Joseph is in the room. Please ask him. I'd also like to recognize our Board of Trustee Vice President who is here, Ms. Jennifer Roach. Thank you so much for coming. Okay, you've been sitting for a while. I'm going to try to whiz through what we have for you on this afternoon. So our mission in Crosby ISD is on the screen, and one of the things that we really worked on this summer was to identify our portrait of a graduate. What do we want our students to be? What do we want them to have when they walk across the stage? We want them to be effective communicators. We want them to be kind, emotionally intelligent, goal-oriented, and service-minded. So this is what we are guaranteeing and working toward in Crosby ISD for each student. Last year, more than half of our graduating class earned an associate's degree or an industry certification. We are working really hard to prepare our students for the real world. And those are the two real world. Associate's degree if you're going the academic route, and industry certification if you're going the career route. Our CTE program, we have 22 programs of study, and that's kind of the career route. So students are able to identify in high school, I want to be a welder. So we have a path for them to get their welding certification. I want to be a nurse. We have a pathway for that. We have a pathway for education. 22 programs of study for students who have an idea of what they want to be when they grow up, and we start educating them in that field in high school. Some fast facts: 10 hottest communities in the Houston area. This is on HAR.com. Crosby is number 2. Look at the sale price. Yeah, hand clap. That means we look good and inviting to others, right? Sale price average and the year. So 2013, average sale price $145,142. 2023, average sale price $281,509. Okay. We are on the cut. Well, after Jody, I feel like most of my presentation is ditto, 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 because everything that he presented to you is about enrollment and it's about growth in our area. We have actually the district has met with 15 of the new developments, and he told you that we're future casting 10,000 new homes with 5,000 new students in the next 10 years. This is just a little timeline. When Crosby was founded, 1823, Barrett Station founded, 1875, all the way to now the future of 2020. And that actually is 2023, but we're now in 2024. And then walk down memory lane, you might remember some of those storefronts, some of those, I think Bob and Jean's is still here, Eagleton's is still here with a different name, Jay's is still here with a different name. It was fun to do that little walk down memory lane. I am from here, so I remember all of those buildings, and so that was interesting. In 1970, the population was 3,868. 2020 population, 32,606. Okay, now let's look at our school district, our schools, our community, our future. We are a 5A school district. If you're into football, you know that we are 5A D1. We are the largest in the 5A district. The next step up is 6A. If you keep up with football and UIL realignment, you know they just realign. They realign every 2 years. So every 2 years, they look at your population and then decide what alignment or what division you're in, which determines what other schools you play. They do an alignment every 2 years. They just did one I really predict it's possible by the time we realign again in 2 more years, it's possible and likely that we will find ourselves in 6A. We have 1 high school, 9th through 12th. We have 1 middle school, 6th through 8th, 4 elementary schools, 1 early childhood. We have a total of 7 schools in the district. Our demographics, 51% Hispanic, 31% white, 12% African American, and 3% 2 or more races. As of February 1st, 2024, because it changes every day. So at some point we got to stop and just capture it at that point for this presentation. And that date was February 1st. As of February 1st, we had 6,831 students. Breakdown, our pre-K to 5, like all of those campuses, a total of 3,246. Middle school, remember I said we had 1 building. So at that building, at the middle school, there are 1,572 teenagers. Yeah, y'all know what that means. At the high school, we have 1,013 teenagers. Crosby Kindergarten, that is our early childhood center. Historically, it had been all of pre-K that qualified for pre-K and all of kinder students in all of our areas. Because of the growth and the need to find space in different buildings, we made an adjustment this year. And kindergarten students who live in Drew Elementary Zone and Barrett Elementary Zone, we zone them to their school. So Drew is now K to 5 and Barrett Elementary is now K to 5, which relieves some space at Crosby Kindergarten. So Crosby Kindergarten has kindergarten students for Newport Elementary Zone students and Crosby Elementary Zone students and all of the pre-K students in the district. Our elementary schools, we have the 1 pre-K kinder center, 4 elementaries, Drew, Barrett, Crosby, and Newport. And then we have our 1 middle school and our 1 high school. High school is expanding. Jody told you about that. We are adding a wing. When the high school was built, 2015, 16-ish, it was built with the capacity to be built on. Because they were forecasting, right? We're building this building for what we need now. In the future, we're going to need even more space. And so it was built with the capacity to add on. Now is when we are working on adding that wing. The expansion area is in the rear of Crosby High School, the existing Crosby High School. And now that we are adding on, we are doing so with a frugal mind. I won't say cheap. Because it's going to be nice, but with a frugal mind, and we're thinking about the dollars. And so there have been quite a few areas that we have been able to make decisions that are less costly than the initial building. The options are here. The main interior finishes and the restroom finishes, we made those selections based on what will look nice in that wing, but what's not very expensive. We also looked at the floor plan, and if you've been in the high school, you know that we have, and it's beautiful. We have beautiful open spaces in those wings for, small group instruction or for kids to go out. It looks really nice. It's called a flex space. But because we're concerned about bottom dollar and we need classrooms, on the original plan, we've taken some of that space from the flex rooms to make classrooms. Because what we need right now are classrooms, not flex spaces. And so making that decision, we've been able to add 4 additional classrooms to the high school. The more classrooms we can have, the longer we have to need another building. You see the growth, the kids are coming. If we can buy more time, that would be great. And so we've added 4 additional classrooms to buy us a little more time. That's what I was talking about, the flex areas that, now there will be some, because we couldn't fit a classroom there, but the areas that could be kind of taken away and put into a classroom, we've made those adjustments. The timeline, I know there's a lot of, they say they're expanding, what are they doing? There's a whole lot of work that happens behind the scenes before you start seeing work done. And so the timeline, right now we're in the design phase, we're at 75% review, the plans are almost done. March of 2024, which believe it or not, that's next month, construction bids will happen. This is the work that we have, who would like to do this work, and we receive those bids and decide who gets the work. And construction will begin in June 2024. You guys know time flies by. We'll blink and then you'll see all this work being done at the high school. And it is scheduled for completion November of 2025. Rewind a bit to the bond 2023. That was in November. We had an $85 million proposition for middle school and elementary and then district-wide maintenance projects and renovations. For the maintenance projects, it was for these things that were listed. What's important to know, we have a lot of HVAC equipment. We have some equipment in the district that's 20 plus years old. And for people who are in that kind of business, you know, when it, you know, the older it gets, the more likely that it will just stop working. And when we're talking about HVAC units and things like that, if that stops, we're in trouble. We're in trouble. So the students are coming. Those were the projects that were on the bond. As you know, the bond did not pass, but we've got to figure out what to do because as Jody, who I had no idea what his presentation was going to entail, the students are coming. If the people are moving in, they have kids. Not all of them, but many of them. And what we've seen so far this school year, May 25, 2023, we ended the year, that was the last day of last school year. We ended with 6,693 students. As of February 7th, we were at 6,865 students. It's 172 additional students. That is a 2.57% growth this year so far. So the kids are coming. These are our buildings and the capacity. When you start top, it's like, okay, there's a little room, there's a little room, there's a little room, there's a little room. Look at Crosby Middle School. Building capacity, 1,525 of our lovely teenagers. That's the capacity of that building. Our enrollment is 1,567. High school, building capacity, 1,925. Enrollment, 2,008. They're here. It's estimated every year we delay in construction, it equates to an additional $1.1 million in construction costs. Time is of the essence. Our kids need us to help them. I'm just gonna say, visualize that middle school. All of those students, it's almost like your house, you know, holidays. The family comes over and they're sleeping everywhere and it's a grand time because it's the holiday, but guess what? They pack up and they leave. And then your house goes back to normal. So think about holidays where everybody's everywhere and it's great and it never ends. And then it's not great anymore, right? So that's pretty much where we are. Everybody's there. They're not leaving. More are coming. It's challenging. And so we just kind of want you to think about that is the state of our district. We're doing some great things. I started at the beginning with saying more than the number, you know, that has graduated with industry certification and associate degrees. Our goal is continue that number. We are focused on providing a quality education for our students. And if you want to stay connected to Crosby ISD and know what's happening, you can email communications@crosbyisd.org. Give them your email address. We send out a community connections to community members who don't have kids. If you have kids, you know everything that's happening. You get an email every Sunday about what's happening in the district on every campus. If you're a community member and you don't have students in the district, we still want you to know what's going on in our district. And so this is a way for us to stay connected with community members who don't have students in the district so that you are aware of what is going on, all the great things that are happening in our district.
With the influx of students coming in, how are we going to upgrade the transportation department to handle all these extra children?
All of that we're looking at and we're figuring out a plan. Because it affects every area. It affects the school building, it affects transportation, it affects child nutrition, all of those departments. Yes, sir.
Instead of asking for more money all the time, why don't you guys look for other solutions like having half the kids go in the morning and half the kids go in the afternoon?
So the state of Texas has mandatory minutes.
Oh, I was wondering, instead of...
Not you, I mean her. Everybody else can hear it.
You still can't hear him, right? So the question is, instead of the question is, why can't we have students go half a day to help with the capacity in the building? And the answer is, the